So I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners to order for Friday, February 28th at 9 p.m., 9 a.m. At Chatham Road. We have Commissioner Bob Young, John Goff, Alan Thompson, and we have Judith Underwood remote on phone. So we have a quorum. Also on phone, we have our consultant, Dan Pelletier from Waterworks Consulting, and we have our superintendent, Jason, and we have a couple of members in the audience from, one from the Great Sand Lakes area. With that said, I'll call the meeting to order. This was a meeting called specially, so it's a one topic meeting. It's not our usual meeting time. So I would ask first if there is any public comment. Oh, okay.
When would be the right time?
It'll be,
When you get to the agenda?
it's only one.
Yeah.
I just put that there to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to our sole topic for today, which is many people are aware that, it's the time of year when we're designing the warrants and the projects, and the issue of the projections for sewering in the Great Sand Lakes area is on the table for discussion this year. And at the presentation at last Monday's Select Board meeting, I think she might be the president, but if I'm wrong, correct me, Ann Frechette.
She's a board member.
Board member, okay. Did do a very nice presentation. But in the presentation, at one point, she made a statement about how many houses would be affected. I guess she had been asked that at a previous meeting. And her answer was that it's not just the 150 houses that would be sewered, and she pointed to the well fields that we have down in that area. She said it's actually 10,000 homes, that every home in our town could be affected by the degradation of those ponds. Her assertion was that any continued degradation to those Great Sand Lake ponds would travel to our collection wells and could thereby have a bad result for the entire drinking water supply in the town. So naturally, when I heard that, we paid attention. This meeting was called because the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners and the Water Department don't feel that was a true representation of the facts. So we have been invited on Monday night for the superintendent to give a statement of our representation of the facts. So this board is here today to discuss this letter. This was worked on between Jason and our consultant, Dan, and would be for presentation Monday night. And then further to talk about possibly articles in the newspaper next week. But our first thing is for presentation Monday night. So with that said, I would ask the board for input on this document.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay, I saw the presentation. I thought it was interesting, but I thought it took some liberties with the water quality. Our water quality in this letter that I feel like we're working towards. I would like to edit, if possible, and push all the information about our drinking water to the first paragraph, saying that Harwich's public drinking water remains safe and high quality. Providing our excellent drinking water and protecting our resources are long-standing priorities of this department. This is also an award-winning department that protects and enhances and works very hard for these, to keep our water quality high. I didn't hear any data from her as to why she felt the water system was threatened. I mean, yes, there's some anecdotal evidence but there's no discussion of like the depth of our wells, exactly where the water is being pulled from, what's happening there that's, quote, endangering 10,000 people. That was, to me, that was a kind of a scare tactic that I didn't like much. I just wanted to reassert, and I think it should be in the front paragraph, that residents should be assured our drinking water is continuously monitored, meets all state and federal safety standards, and there is no cause for alarm, let alone to alert 10,000 people. So that's my take on this. I'm a proponent for the sewering. I'm all for that. But I felt like this was a kind of leapfrogging maybe to try to get it done now as opposed to some areas that might be ahead of that. And wastewater is really the department or the purview of the select board. We have very little input as to what they do until they build it and we take it over. So at that point, you know, we can assess all of this, but you know, I think our biggest job here is to give the assurances to the public that their drinking water is safe and drinkable, and it will remain that way. And that's how I view it.
I'm with you.
Yeah, good points.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, I think this document is well written, especially for a first start. You know, this topic just came up. Dan, did you hear Bob's comments about editing and moving around some of these statements?
Yep.
What do you, because...
Yeah, no, I mean, I can, I wish I was recording the meeting. No, but Bob, I mean, if everyone's in agreement with the direction Bob was going, and maybe he and I can follow up after and work through a second draft.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, you know, send you something that you and Jason could then look over. And I think it's important, you know, I would like to just stress for the public, you know, the quality aspect, but then follow it up with your guys' data and the engineering that shows why it's safe and stuff, and just be helpful that way. And then if the public has questions or the select board has questions, you know, we have the engineering to back it up.
I'm fine with that. I've worked with Bob in writing some things, and the results have been good products, you know, so far. So, you know, it sounds like we're talking about the basic thoughts and just a question on improving a little bit how it's presented. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll proceed that way, because this would be, you know, Monday night. Go ahead.
Sorry. And also if it's going to be sent to the newspaper as a response. They tend to only pick 1 or 2 paragraphs, so
Right.
I would like to get the quality up there.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, that was going to be my next topic, is after Monday night, there's 2 things we could do. We could either, you know, when we have the final statement, we could either hand it to Bill Galvin, who'll probably be there, because I know he was out of town last week. That's probably why there wasn't an article in the paper last week. Or we could send in our own letter to the editor. And in this case, I'm thinking our own letter to the editor might be better.
Yeah, or would they give us a column or anything?
We've never tried before, but I can make the calls and, you
Like an
know, find out.
op-ed piece?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And maybe we can get the entire thing in it that way. So,
I'm sure I could call Bill Galvin.
yeah, if everybody's in agreement, I'll explore that and see if we can get a follow-up
Yeah.
letter. And if worse comes to worse, we'll simply speak to Bill Galvin and get our views, you know, as part of whatever article
Just
he's
invite him. Invite him
presenting.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
Go over it.
That would be a couple of weeks away, though. This
Yeah,
is kind of moved fast, you know, because unfortunately, when people hear things about a drinking water supply, you know, we've gotten a bunch of calls, you know, already, so we can't really sit on our hands,
You know,
not that we ever do, you know, so.
you know.
I was wondering if anybody in the audience wanted to make any comments. You're welcome to.
It's enlightening what you're saying, and I think what Ann was trying to get across was that there's a potential for the quality of the water up there to reach down the water table and affect the drinking water ultimately. I don't think she was saying that there's a problem now,
Right,
but
right.
a potential for a future
Right.
problem. And because the cyanobacteria levels have gone up, radically over the last
Yeah.
few years, that's what's sparked this concern.
Right. I'll only say in response to that, because I've been supporting wastewater for 15 years now in sewering, so it's been a big, big chunk of my life. But the contention that was made of, way in the future, could the degradation of the ponds possibly leach down or migrate down? As I was talking with our consultant, he reminded me that, let's say, years from now, we had a problem near our wells, from that. We wouldn't sewer 3 miles north. If we ever had a problem that, it seems remote, but that initiated from the Great Sand Lakes area, we would sewer near our wells. We wouldn't sewer, 3 miles away to get the drift down effect. So by saying that, what I'm saying is that if the Great Sand Lakes project wants to go forward, that's fine, that's a viable argument on its own, but what I'm saying, it can't be justified by claims of potential harm to our drinking water system. That's just the difference that I'm trying to make, and that's our position.
Yeah, I agree, unless you guys have proof, and she can say there's this percolation effect that's been shown in other areas that's imminently endangering the water. It's really speculative. An asteroid could hit us too and wipe everything out. So within a time frame of the improvements being talked of, I think we need to stick to the.
It doesn't mean there's not value to the project.
No.
It just means that I'm not going to agree that drinking water is a
Right.
justification for it. That's going to be my position. And also I'll say, and I know Alan can back me up much more. Personally, I've been involved in these issues for 15 years. Alan has for a lot longer. But in 15 years, other than the MEP report talked about, ponds in general, the Mass Estuaries report, from way back, that was referenced in Ann's presentation. But it hasn't been that people have been sitting around desks going, boy, we got to do this area because the drinking water's in danger. That has never, ever been said until last week. I know it was also mentioned and stated it at your October 29th info brief at all. She made the same statement, and it caught my ear then. But so this is like, it just seems to me that if this was, a critical threat to our drinking water, believe me, Alan or I would have been talking about it for, many, 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 many years. Never once, So, maybe it's a threat, but again, it's not about the project, it's, that's what we're saying, so.
Yeah. Noreen, can I jump in with a question and then a comment?
Absolutely. Judith, this is Judith Underwood.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I'm up with my mom. So can you guys just remind me, when is phase 3 theoretically supposed to come on?
About 3
Phase
years.
three.
About 3 years.
Okay. Okay. Because and to the gentleman from the Great Sand Lakes group, I know I had, you guys had presented, I don't know if it was to the Water Commission or if it was to one of the housing boards that I've sat on in the past, but I know I've spoken with some of you folks before, particularly around the water quality of the lakes. and the cyanobacteria, and I had suggested, I had heard a presentation from one of the rooster communities that also live around one of the ponds there in the lakes. And Dan, maybe you remember the name of the pond or the lake, but that neighborhood association, because they use their pond and lake the same way that you guys do, with all the intergenerational activity, which is awesome, they got together, and I will find that contact, and they addressed it by switching out all of their septic systems with innovative septic systems that held back the phosphorus and the nitrates. And their pond came back. So it's a different solution that you should at least explore, I think, short term, to try different things. It can't hurt to have that information. I'll try to track down the which association, but it's just over in Brewster, neighborhood association like the Great Sand Lake Association, and they all work together, and they all agreed to do X, Y, and Z. They could also all afford it, quite frankly, and but the pond came back, and they didn't have these issues going forward. Just a secondary idea to think about.
Thanks, Judith.
Thanks.
All right, so I don't think we, what's up, Alan?
Over the years, we've had times when we've had situations with ponds and we've treated them and it cleared up. And it was a part of Mother Nature doing whatever somehow. I don't remember all the details. But we've had issues in the past, Buck's Pond,
Yeah.
for one. And you think of the number of years that's all been developed. I mean, if we had a serious problem, you wouldn't even go in the water.
Yeah,
But it's still used, there's still beaches, and it's ongoing. So if there's an example of potential for pollution, that's number one right there. All that development started late 50s.
yeah.
And it's been fully developed all and around them. So yes, I firmly believe that we are destined to sewer the whole town. It won't go away. So, and at some point, it all needs to happen. Other than that, the glass is still looking good.
Right, well, that'll be a while, whichever direction we go in. So, at any rate, our purpose here today is to talk about the statements about water quality. Scott?
So, I'm relatively new and I don't know all the history. I know there was a plan that was developed that had phases going out 20, 25 years that would probably end up costing $500 million ultimately. And that at some point, the Great Sand Lake project was advanced chronologically. And that was the basis for the application for a piece of the Clean Water Revolving Fund that was successful in allocating $31 million, $32 million to that project. So my perspective, just financial perspective, is that that fund is very attractive in the interest rates, and I guess there's even some loan forgiveness on some of those loans. And as I understand it, if we don't take advantage of it in this cycle, we would have to reapply, potentially lose that allocation. And the other thing that's going on right now is that the new proposed, there are changes proposed for the revolving fund,
I've heard that.
which will make it more difficult.
Right.
It's oversubscribed. There's not enough repayments coming back to support the current level of annual allocation. And so the chances of winning such an application in the future are probably less than in the present.
Yeah,
So I don't know why the project was advanced chronologically, but those motivations probably did not include water well threats. I understand everything that's been said about that. But whatever those reasons were, density, bang for the buck, et cetera, I assume persist today. But I'd love to hear anything you guys, I know it's the select board's purview until it gets built and turned over to your department, but I'd love to hear more about the history of why it was advanced and,
I'm just going to answer one part of your question. The reason it came up at all wasn't about bang for the buck or density or anything like that. It came up because we are able to send effluent to Chatham, and that was another area that could possibly, we can't send effluent from West Harwich, we can't send it from, and even that was never negotiated, it was just an idea. But Scott, I'm not going to answer all your other questions, I could, but they're really the authority and responsibility of the select board.
Right.
So we're going to stick to our
Yep.
water terror, and I'd love to, because I've been studying it for 15 years, but I'm going to leave it with the people
Understood.
responsible for it, because the point you make are valid about the project in and of itself, and the select board has to be addressed on those issues.
Yes.
Our only statement that we will continue to make to the public is, if you want to consider this project, by all means consider it, but don't consider it on the grounds that there is a potential harm to our drinking water. That's our contention, so.
I'm sorry. I served on that wastewater committee. And we went through all of this, rigmarole and everything. And then, just like you said, about transferring, collecting wastewater and take it to Chatham plant or Yarmouth plant or whatever. And it all died. All of a sudden, there was no more problems. It was left with the board of selectmen at that point. And so they didn't do anything, or it turned out that it wasn't a great problem. Obviously,
well, I won't continue that line because I understand you really,
Yeah.
that's not your purview.
no.
It's the select board's purview. But it seems
I
to me
talked
a
to you
waste.
about that over a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
but not from the chair.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
No, and
Oh,
at that time, they hired people to advise that committee, and like I said, it just kind of died.
What is it that died? I'm not
The
sure.
committee
here.
Oh, the committee.
and any action.
Okay. So it sounds like we don't have to, it sounds like we have a plan where Jason, Dan, and Bob will come up with a document
A draft, at
based on,
least, yeah.
based on this. It doesn't really have to be any more drafts at this point, as long, I trust you three guys to encompass the same, ideas, so we don't need any more approval as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna ask for your copies back, because as you just heard, we're changing them, and that's why. So then if you just get something out Monday, Jason will be presenting that Monday night. Dan will be in the audience, he happens to be there for another reason anyway, and in case any questions get into the weeds or anything like that. We did post, we won't be asked to speak, there's nothing for us to say, I'll be attending for support. We already posted to be on the safe side, so as far as the board goes, you can either show up or not show up, it's totally up to you. I think it would be just Jason and a few questions, but that's your call, you don't have to tell me, it's already posted, so.
Okay.
Nothing to worry about.
Let's see what we
And
get
that's-
done.
That's Monday night at 6. And then the other thing is, in the meantime, between now and Monday, I'll see what I can find out about options in terms of communication with the Chronicle.
Yeah,
Um,
ask if we could do an
as to
op-ed.
whether it can be a letter or whatever, and I'll have to be in touch with you guys by email, because we're not meeting next week, but I'll get the best arrangements we can, once I have a document from you. So with that said, I think we're done with that topic, which is great. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
folks.
Thanks, good to
Thank
see you.
you.
Keep
It'll
us
be
posted
interesting
on how
to
it
see.
goes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Will there be any
Yeah,
kind
thanks,
of
guys.
report of the minutes of this
Yeah,
particular meeting?
Yeah.
How would that be available?
probably wouldn't, the minutes wouldn't be available for a while. We're usually about a month behind.
Okay.
But our things get taped, and the tape would be up, I don't know, in a few days.
Very good.
Yeah, usually
Yeah.
3 or 4 days.
We sometimes take a little longer because we're remote. You know, they have to come down here and take the tape. Is that how they still do it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's being taped
Next
and,
week it should be up.
Very
Yeah.
good. Thank you all.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna wind out the meeting, and I would just say, do you have anything for superintendent's report? It's not a normal meeting, you don't have to.
I just want to say that the department is very transparent with all of their water testing. We have this consumer confidence report. That
that's
consumer
important.
confidence report is on our website.
Right.
Everybody wants one and they don't have access to the web. They can come down here and we have reports here for them. And that shows all of our testing, that we do, our water quality testing. So-
You know, I heard from many friends from different areas of the town over the last couple of days, and they all just kept saying, you know, that's right, get up there and talk about how it's best water that we've always had, keep it flowing, stuff like that. So I really think that a lot of people just want to hear a reassurance. You know, this was kind of a digression to the side, you know, everybody always had trust in our water system, we win the awards, people get good service, and this was just kind of a jolt, a different way. And so I think you go in Monday night and just give them that reassurance. We'll just remind people that people can have different views, but we're still the same people and still producing that same quality product. You know, I really think reinsurance will, because we had such a great reputation anyway, so,
I
pretty
think
high,
we
so,
point that out.
yeah.
Two things bothered me was this map of the wells, where they are, and then the toxic algae cycle. And it sort of intimates that the wells aren't deep enough and this permeates down. And I would like to shoot that down too, and say, you know, the wells are not gonna be contaminated, and the algae toxic cycle doesn't affect the water quality of the drinking water.
Commissioners report, anybody, anything else to say? Alan?
No.
Bob?
No,
Judith? I guess you
No.
don't. Oh, I thought you were gone. John?
Oh, no.
So with that said, I think we know how to proceed. I'm glad we had a chance to get together and talk about it, and we'll be in touch. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second?
You know, for one thing for sure, sewage will be a part of our lives at some point. It ain't gonna go away.
No.
No, I
I think
agree,
it already-
I agree that it should be done, but it's got nothing to do with us, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
It's up to the selectmen.
yeah, that's right.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Hi.
All right.